Once you got everybody in the room, let me know. I'll get cranking. So good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce this morning's guest speaker. From international gaming phenomena to game-changing initiatives, Dutch-born entrepreneur and innovator Henk Rogers continues to pave the way in regenerating our home planet and working toward establishing permanent human settlement on the moon and Mars. Starting his career in computer gaming more than 3 decades ago, Rogers revolutionized the industry by creating Japan's first role-playing game and later bringing the legendary game Tetris to the world. Since then, Rogers has dedicated his career to research, development, advocacy, and implementation of renewable energy sources in his adopted home of Hawaii. His Blue Planet Foundation, based out of Honolulu, has led efforts to pass the nation's first 100% renewable energy mandate, requiring the state of Hawaii to commit to switching to 100% renewable sources of electricity by 2045. His newest initiative, Blue Planet Alliance, based out of New York City, is expanding Blue Planet Foundation's mandate's first business model, second approach worldwide. BPAs are driving global systemic change by developing projects that change behaviors of people, companies, towns, and countries toward sustainability. Rogers continues to explore renewable energy and space settlement opportunities through his Blue Planet Research, which conducts research and development at his off-grid ranch on my island of Hawaii. Ladies and gentlemen, Honolulu Sunrise Rotarian, Henk Rogers.
Thank you very much. You just gave my speech. So, yes, my name is Henk Rogers. Born in the Netherlands, 8 years in New York City, junior high school and high school, and then university in Hawaii, where I majored in computer science and I minored in Dungeons and Dragons. Everyone thought I was wasting time, but 6 years later, I was in Japan when personal computers came out, and I was able to write the first role-playing game in Japan, which was the #1 game in 1984. So that is not 30 years ago. It's more like, oh, that's more like almost 50 years ago. Oh my gosh, it's such a long time. I started the company, my first company, by publishing my first game, and then I started traveling around the world looking for games to bring to Japan, where I was the publisher. And one of those games was Tetris, and you may know, how many of you have played Tetris? Raise your hand. So I'm so sorry to have wasted so much of your time. But anyway, fast forward from that, as I had a company in Hawaii called Blue Lava Wireless, and we made games for mobile phones. I sold that company in 2005, and that was my exit from the computer game business. And it was almost my exit from this entire life, because a month after I sold the company, I had a 100% blockage of the widowmaker, which is the largest artery in your heart. They told me that they were going to take me in for observation, but halfway to the hospital, the siren went on, and I knew things were getting really bad. I looked up at the ceiling of that ambulance and I said, no, I'm not going. I still have stuff to do. And I obviously survived. I have 2 stents. I'm fine. But I got to thinking, what did I mean by stuff? I just sold my company, so my wife had enough money, so she didn't need me anymore, and my children already graduated from school, so they didn't need me anymore. And so, what did I mean by stuff? And I found my missions in life. And the first mission came to me in the back of a newspaper while still at Straub in the recovery room. And it said, oh, by the way, we're going to kill all the coral in the world by the end of the century. And I'm like, that's crazy. What are you talking about? And it was in the back of the newspaper, like by the obituaries. It wasn't headline news or anything. You know, for an island country where coral is as important as it is in Hawaii. It just was a footnote. And it's a footnote in world news, we all know why it's happening. It's ocean acidification. Why is that? Why is ocean acidifying? It's carbon dioxide. Where's this carbon dioxide coming from? It's us humans that are creating all that carbon dioxide. So I said about figuring out how I'm going to end the use of carbon-based fuel. That's my first mission. To that end, I started a foundation called the Blue Planet Foundation. And rather than explain to you the foundation myself, I'll have my niece, Mia, in the video explain Blue Planet Foundation. Roll the video, please.
Hawaii is our home. But our home is changing.
Breaking news on Kauai tonight, devastating flooding.
Widespread damage, homes on the verge of collapsing.
The world is changing.
The largest wildfires in the state of California.
Tonight, the rain is over, but the disaster is not.
I worry sometimes when I think about my future. What will it be like when I grow up? Would it be like what my parents remember? Climate change scares me. But we know that it doesn't have to be this way. We can change. That's why I'm grateful for Blue Planet Foundation. For the past 10 years, Blue Planet has been leading the way for clean energy. They think if we can do it in Hawaii, we can show the entire world what a clean energy future looks like. They brought together hundreds of students just like me to be a part of the change.
Say now, win! Win! All right, now everybody get your signs. Everybody get together. Make your voice heard. Make your future happen.
They joined their families and neighbors to draw the line on climate change.
Our voices really matter, and us being here today is showing something and showcasing to the world that we really care about this issue and we want to take a stand.
And in 2015, their efforts paid off when Hawaii passed our country's first 100% renewable energy law. It's nice to know when I grow up, all our energy will come from clean sources. And now Blue Planet is growing. The Repower Project is working to bring Hawaii's 100% renewable energy law to other states. Now Blue Planet is active every day, making this change happen. They are in our classrooms and in our communities. We still have a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do. I'm excited about the new future we are creating. We can help solve our climate crisis, starting in Hawaii, and we'll inspire the world. But we can't do it alone. Will you help? For my future.
But sorry about the quality of the video. In real life, it would be much smoother. To continue, our mandate for 100% renewable energy by 2045 was a negotiation between us and the legislators. They were ready to give us 2050 and we wanted 2040 and we settled for 2045. Well, it turns out that 2045 is like a great date because, as my son pointed out to me, it's the 100th anniversary of the United Nations. And it's part of the reason I'm in New York, because we have to accomplish what we accomplished in Hawaii in the rest of the world by 2045. What better result of 100 years of the United Nations than for it to have fixed climate change? In the US, after Hawaii did its mandate, California came on and they had a mandate 2 years later. That's like the 6th largest economy in the world. Now we're up to 13 states in the US that have a 100% renewable energy mandate. And by the way, Hawaii is on track. In fact, we're a little bit ahead of schedule because we recently changed the business model of the utility, so they make more money the quicker they switch to renewables. Guess who's on our side now? I mean, they used to be on the other side when we were fighting for legislation, and now we're completely aligned. And when everybody starts paddling in the same direction, we all move much faster. So I'm in New York to do the same thing that I did in Hawaii, or that we did in Hawaii, but for the rest of the world. And the rest of the world basically comes together in New York because the United Nations, all the countries have representatives here, and our next target countries are island countries. And so because they're most like Hawaii, and they in fact are going to suffer the most from climate change and sea level rise, that they have the most to gain by switching to 100% renewable energy. So how do we do this? I mean, first of all, we have the mandates. Second of all, we have, it's called the Blue Planet Alliance. And there are lots and lots of NGOs, I would say thousands of NGOs in the world that are all trying to do something similar. Not exactly the same, not the same words. And we thought of a way of uniting all of the NGOs. And basically, it's called the Alliance. And the mission of the Alliance is to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony. So we're in the process of entering into MOUs, memoranda of understanding, with all the NGOs, saying that we're going to work together with them to create a world in which humanity and nature live in harmony. Who can say no to that mission? The answer is nobody. Everybody agrees with that, and that's why we chose that mission. But if in its best, how can I say, in its moment of glory, the United Nations organized the Paris Agreement, and the question is, are we on track for the Paris Agreement? And the answer is no. In fact, I don't think there's any country that's on track for the Paris Agreement, or very few, I should say. And part of the problem I perceive is that the Paris Agreement, first of all, said we should try and stay under 2 degrees of how can I say, global warming. And that's so hard for people to understand, because most people can't understand the difference between weather and climate. Climate is something that you measure over years, and weather is something that you listen to in the news on a daily basis. So those things are disconnected for many people. And then what can I do as an individual, or as a company, or as a country to stay under 2 degrees? It's hard to understand. So I think that having 100% renewable energy as a goal is much easier for everyone to understand. They know what they have to do between now and then. They know what the timeline is. They can start thinking of this. And in fact, this is what the electric company in Hawaii went through internally. And then they came out and said, you know what, and this was after fighting us. They came out and they said, hey, you know what, we figured it out. We can actually do this by 2040. And we did a calculation for Hawaii. That would save ratepayers $7 billion. $7 billion. Hawaiian Electric buys fossil fuel at something like 22 cents per kilowatt hour, and renewable energy at something like 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So even if we allow them to make more money on the renewable energy, we are still paying much less. And it's the same story on every island. And eventually it's going to be the same story in every country, because renewable energy is getting cheaper and cheaper. But the United Nations, without the rest of the people, then just isn't going to get it done. That's my feeling. So 1/3 of what we're doing in New York has to do with the United Nations and countries. And 2/3 of what we're doing at the moment, and I think it'll always be that way, is about uniting the people. And so it's not the United Nations, but the united people that are actually going to get this done. So what are we doing in this area? We have two initiatives. One of them is, we call it a rating system. And the rating system, when you go to Amazon.com or hotels.com or whatever, when you're buying a product or a service, it gives you 5 stars, and 5 stars tells you if somebody got a good bang for their buck. That's just not enough information for us to make good decisions about what to buy. And so the rating system that we've come up with is a 5-planet rating system. And that rating system tells you, the consumer, how good is this product or this service for the future of humanity and nature. And we hooked up with a Dutch company that takes 550 rating agencies around the world, the information, the data from them, and collates it into one database, and they give us a number, and that number we turn into the 5 planets. So we're in negotiate. It's already been launched in Europe, and we're now working our way into US-based web shops, is what they call them. That's a rating system. The reason for the rating system is that I, as a consumer, when I go to stay in a hotel or when I buy a product, I want to know which is the most eco-friendly product. And maybe older people aren't as conscious about this, but guess what? Young people are. And so when young people all start buying eco-friendly products, then you'll see companies compete to make more eco-friendly products. And that is, at the end of the day, what's going to solve things, is when companies change their behavior and people force them to change their behavior by making eco-friendly choices. And the last thing is, and we're in prototype right now, people ask me after I give a talk, they come up to me and they ask me, so what can I do? And my answer is always, I'm sorry, I don't know what you can do. I don't know who you are. I know what I can do. I can get up on stage and I can give a speech and hope to get you to do something, but I don't know what you can do. So just do anything. And then I started thinking, people just don't know where to start. The problems of the world are so big. Climate change, plastic in the ocean, they're so daunting. And so as an individual, what can I do that affects that huge problem? So, and I come from the game business, so I'm kind of creating a role-playing game for people now. And you as a person or a player, we give you a list of things to do. And in the beginning, the things are super easy, like turn off a light in a room where there is no people, or pick up a piece of rubbish, put it in the rubbish can. I mean, these are small little actions that you would say a 4-year-old can do. You can teach them. But if you do a bunch of those, then you go up a level. And that's what role-playing is all about. When you go up a level, we give you slightly more difficult things to do. And you get more points. And so basically, level 2, level 3, by the time you're level 4, you're organizing people to do things. And the AI watches the things that you choose to do and figures out what things you're most likely to do next. This is common gaming practice. To keep you playing a game, we figure out what is the player going to want to do next to keep him playing the game. And so in this case, it's doing good for the world. I'm in the process of figuring out how to tokenize it. There's all this talk about Bitcoin and NFTs and tokens. And I'm right at the cusp of figuring out the points that people earn could eventually turn into something. Because right now, the way a Bitcoin is created is it takes a huge amount of energy. So it's really a terrible thing to create a Bitcoin. Ethereum, other of these coins are getting better, but I'd like to have a coin which is created when someone does something good in the world. What a concept. If somebody does something good, a coin gets created. And maybe that coin is useful for something in the future. And whoever has more coins, who has more status can say, it's just like a handicap in golf. You can brag about your level. And Bono can say, okay, anybody over level 5 gets to sit in the front row, that kind of thing. So we will think of benefits that people will have by having done more for the environment, for the future. So where does Rotary come in? Guess what? Rotary has the most people in the most countries that can actually do things. And we can have Rotary create things to do and put them into the action app, and then get Rotarians around the world to do those things. So it doesn't matter what I want to do, it matters what everybody wants to do. So as many things as need to get done in the world, we can have our app, and you can put these things to do into the app, and then you can track how many people actually do them. Because now I give you an example, like Sierra Club. They send me an email and say, can you write your congressman about blah? I've never done that. It's just not the kind of thing that I do. I'm busy. I'm not inclined to do it. But they keep on asking me, and they don't know whether they've been successful or not. And so if they were to ask people in the Action app, could you write your congressman? They will know if somebody actually did it, how many people will actually did it. And then they can think, how can we improve our strategy in terms of reaching people? And they can reach outside of their little silo. Every NGO has its own silo, where they talk to each other, where they talk to their email list, rather than talking to everyone. So that's my story. I'm in New York, but I'm traveling. We have Guam next. Guam is already, we've already got Guam to have 100% renewable by 2045, but there is some noise in Guam by the utility saying that, oh, we may have to build an LNG power plant, liquefied natural gas power plant, in the interim. So I'm going to go to Guam and explain, no, you don't have to do that. First of all, there are plenty of renewable resources in Guam that we don't have to take that step. The whole LNG concept is, people say it's a bridge to the future. And the answer is no, it's a pier. You're going to walk off the end of that pier. It's not a bridge. And so after Guam, we go to Palau. We've been working with the government of Palau, and Palau is probably the next country for us to have 100% mandate. And so we are helping Hawaii, we're helping Guam, we're helping Palau, and we are going to do this year 10 other island countries. Mandate first. If you have a mandate, the people inside of your jurisdiction start thinking, how are we going to achieve this? And that's the mindset that we need people to have. How are we going to fix everything by 2045? And let's not stop at renewable energy. Let's fix everything by 2045. We're in the SDGs right now, the Sustainable Development Goals. They started in 2015, they end in 2030. Then we have another 15 years, the United Nations, until its 100th anniversary. Let's have the next 15 years be the renewable, sorry, I always get this mixed. I can't even remember the word. I should have my wordsmith work on this. The regenerative development goals, where we put back everything that we've stolen from nature, everything that we've broken need to be fixed, and then we can be sustainable. So I hope you join me in this and help fix everything by 2045. Thank you very much. I think that was 25 minutes.
Thank you so much. Hank, there's a question from Gwen on the story behind all of your entities starting with blue.
Well, okay, so it started in Hawaii, and it's a global view. If you start in Hawaii and you look at the world, basically you have the world and you're on Hawaii, and then you back off of the world so you can see the world. It's pretty much a blue planet. So it's a world view, a Hawaii-centric world view.
Thank you.
If Randy is asking, do you have any suggestions on what the district could do district-wide in support of the environment and sustainability?
Again, this is one of these This is exactly a question I get after I talk. It's like, so what can I do? And I go, I don't know what you can do because I don't know, I don't know what your capabilities are. And so the answer is you have to do what you can do. You have to find things that are moving the ball in the right direction and do that. Hopefully, this is be a nice thing if Rotary clubs around the world can add things to do into the Action app, and then other Rotary clubs in the world can actually do them. And then Rotary clubs can compete to see whose members have done the most good for the world. So I don't know which Rotary club you are, but whatever it is, there's plenty of things to do in your neighborhood. Yeah, and the Action app, it's not just actions like in the world. You can have action on, beach cleanup on such and such a day and such a place on Maui. I mean, that's an example of an action that has a time and meeting place where everybody can do something. Next.
Any other questions? Okay, here's one from Jim. How can a Rotary Club focus on such tasks as renewable energy, plastics, etc.?
Again, there are small things. So for one, let's just take plastic. Plastic is an easy one to understand. I live on the Big Island, live in Honolulu, and we have all these little baskets that we put our different rubbish into, plastic, paper, metal, whatever. The point is, where does it go? First of all, the thing that you could do in your area is find out if there is recycling and what actually happens to it. I had my ranch manager on the Big Island track the plastic where it went, and it went into a giant dumpster. And I think that dumpster basically doesn't leave the island. It's scary. So awareness is, first of all, something that we all need to have in order to be able to fix things. So in the old days, we used to send these things, plastic, to China, and China found a way to recycle them. And then China said, no, no more. You guys got your own problem. You do it yourself. And so now I think one thing that we could do is plastic comes to islands in containers in the form of all kinds of goods that we buy. And what happens to the plastic is it never leaves the island. It's a one-way trip for plastic. And what happens is containers leave empty. They leave islands empty and come back and bring more plastic to the islands. Now, I was in Tuvalu, and oh my gosh, a quarter of the island is garbage dump. And so what we should do is create some legislation where, for example, that containers can't leave empty. They got to take stuff back wherever they came from, be it plastic, be it anything recyclable, glass, whatever. I mean, if we can't use those materials locally, we have to export them back. That has to be part of the cost of doing business on an island. You have to take back the rubbish that you brought to the island. That's an example. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. Support your local efforts to go 100% renewable. There's people who are resisting things like geothermal or wind turbines, because they don't look nice. Oh my gosh. I mean, the alternative is so much worse. And so all these efforts to go to 100% renewable energy need people on their side. So please help them. But I mean, those are just small examples. I don't pretend to know everything from everywhere in the world. I was on the radio in Singapore, and it was interesting because I just arrived in Singapore the day before, and I'm sitting down across from the announcer, and she looks at me and says, "This is Singapore, no cursing, no cursing." I said, "It's fine, I don't curse." I guess you can go to jail for cursing. But then she asked me, "So, yeah, we don't have wind, we don't have enough roof space for solar. How can we go 100% renewable?" And I said, "Look, I don't know how you get your electricity now. I'm going to guess that you get it from, in the form of LNG from a neighbor country. What you should do in Singapore is you should build a big wind farm in Australia and use the wind farm to make, or wind or solar farm, and use that to make hydrogen, and then import hydrogen. Hydrogen is an absolutely clean fuel. When you use hydrogen to make electricity, the byproduct is water. That's it. And I think the future of the world, when we're going to, in places where we can't get enough local energy, will be that we move hydrogen. We can move hydrogen from the Big Island. We can do geothermal on the Big Island, make hydrogen, and move it to Oahu and solve all of these problems without building a cable. We can just move it by it. They're building ships now. Australia is looking at the end of coal and building ships to move hydrogen. That's going to be their future export. We could export hydrogen from the Big Island.
And Jim is on the Big Island, North Hawaii. Doug Adams, you have a question?
I did. Thanks. Thanks, Henk, for talking to us. Just a question. The SDG efforts that you're engaged in, are you prioritizing those, or are you taking a networked approach to, any solutions that you're going after? I've heard folks doing it both ways.
Yeah. So in Hawaii, we focused on one issue, and we focused on one territory, and the issue was renewable energy, and the territory was Hawaii. And I travel around the world to ask people, so what is your big issue? I attended all these eco conferences, and as many people as I talked to, that's how many issues I came up with. And so basically what I'm doing now in New York with the Blue Planet Alliance is I'm only doing things which have the potential to have a global impact. So I'm no longer doing any single issue. I'm no longer doing any local issue. And so basically all of the initiatives that we've got going have a chance to make a global change. And, we say, wow, that sounds like a big thing, whatever, and trying to change something in the world. But when I got started in Hawaii to change Hawaii to renewable energy, that was a huge thing. I had no idea how I was going to do it, how we were going to do it, and we did it anyway. I remember being on a panel once, and this was during IUCN, and I was on a panel about the future of Hawaii, whatever. And I said, yeah, we're going to go 100% renewable by 2045 in Hawaii. And this guy next to me says, I'm a professor at UH. This is what I study. There is no way we can go 100% by 2045. I was like, wow, I was kind of shocked. And I said, well, I'm not as smart as this guy, so I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the attitude that I want everybody to have. Like there's a lot of smart people who tell us what can't be done. I'm frankly speaking, tired of why things can't be done. I only want to hear what can be done, and let's focus on that. People ask me if I have hope for the future, and the answer is no. This is not about hope. I have confidence in the future. When I was surfing, I was drowning on the North Shore. Hope would not have saved me. I was drowning, and I thought to myself, what do I have to do to survive this? And I thought it through while I was taking on water, and I realized that I was having cramps, so I had to use different muscles. Hello. So I switched to a backstroke, and I found fresh muscles that had, fresh power. And that's the kind of thinking that I need people to have. I don't need people to drown and hope that a lifeguard is going to save them. There isn't that much time. Nobody's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves. And so my motto, and at the COP26, we started this, is we are doing this. And we have always survived. That we are the how can I say, the descendants of people who survived. Those people who didn't survive didn't have us as kids. And so we've always survived, and we're going to survive this. There's no question in my mind. Let's survive without doing too much damage. That's all.
Thank you. Gwen?
Thank you. Thank you, Hank. This is really interesting. I really love your idea of connecting 1.2 million Rotarians through your app. That's amazing. You know, I would say through your leadership, as well as the leadership of Mayor Roth and Doug Adams, Hawaii Island is leading the path on hydrogen. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on carbon neutral jet fuel.
Carbon neutral jet fuel. Airbus is building a hydrogen plane. They got another 15, 20 years, and then they'll have hydrogen jetliners. And I'm sure that just like, you know, when Elon Musk came up with an electric car, everybody has to build electric cars now. And so if you've got a zero pollution airplane, guess what? Boeing, in order to survive, is going to have to come up with the same thing. And more recently, there's actually I've talked yesterday, there's a plane coming out that's going to connect the inter-islands that's on batteries. And it's funny, you know, normally it takes a decade to get a plane to be approved. This thing gets out of having to be approved because it doesn't go over 50 feet. It floats right above the water. And when you see seabirds flying right above the water, it's something called the ground effect. And so we can have, and basically these planes are not, how can I say, they're not being governed by the FAA, they're being governed by the Coast Guard. And the Coast Guard rules of engagement are completely different, you know, because a plane flies over people, over buildings, and a boat doesn't. So this thing only floats over water. And so all the places, especially in Hawaii, that are connected by water can be connected by electric planes. And that, you know, gosh, the numbers they gave me was incredible, how much inter-island traffic there is, and how many millions of tons of CO2 that causes. So electric planes, right now the batteries are still too heavy. Hydrogen planes are a little farther away, but this new flying boat thing is kind of like sneaking between the rules, and hopefully we'll have some inter-island passenger planes in a couple of years.
Next question is from Joy on Kauai.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to go back to the hydrogen energy. As you sparked something in my head, and I was just, because there's going to be water shortage, drinking water, and so you said that the hydrogen energy turns into water. Is that something that you then can turn into drinking water or sanitation water from that?
Okay, so first of all, it takes a tiny bit of water. So it's not a volume of water that you get when you make electricity.
Sure.
What you get out of that, out of the fuel cell, is you get distilled water, because you're taking pure oxygen and pure hydrogen and you're combining them, and so you get pure water. So I mean, you can drink distilled water, but it has no flavor. You know, it's like you're drinking nothing. So as far as drinking water, but anyway, the volume of water, it's so cute, because I took a Toyota Mirai for a test drive, and it collects the water from the fuel cell. And so every once in a while you push a button and it's like the car takes a little pee off the side and drops a little bit of water on the side. So of course you don't want to like wet your parking spot or your garage or whatever it is. So you actually have to take your car somewhere so it can take a pee. It's so cute. It's not a volume of water. And by the way, you know, like people who worry about hydrogen, is it safe? It is way safer than propane or LNG or diesel or any of those. Carbon-based fuel is heavier than air. So if you've got a leak, like in your car with gasoline vapors, or in a garage or whatever, these things sink to the floor and then they float across the floor and they look for a spark. And when you get a spark, it finds it all the way back and then blows up your car. Hydrogen, it's the lightest element in the universe. And so if there's any leak of hydrogen, first of all, it's moving so fast out of that leak that you can't ignite it. I mean, the molecules are moving so fast, that's one. And second, it's the lightest. They float up and then leave your building in no time. So it's not like, I mean, you'd have to find a way to get the right combination of hydrogen and oxygen. And, you know, we play with this, makes a very loud sound. And so, yeah, if you do it in the right way, you can have a nice loud explosion. But in the Hindenburg, which is the one that everybody remembers, it wasn't the hydrogen that caught on fire. It was the thermite that they used for the outside of the paint on the outside. That's what you see burning in that picture. The hydrogen escaped and turned into water. In fact, a bunch of it, the water came in and it saved the people in the cupola because the water came down on them. I mean, that's a large volume of water, of hydrogen turning into water all at once. So yeah, it kind of rained on those people. So anyway, yeah.
Jim?
You, Naomi. Awesome talk on renewable energy. Back to the plastic issue. I happen to be in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. Everyone recycles plastic, and I'm appalled going to the rubbish dumps and including my plastic in with the regular rubbish, and no consideration of putting that in a safe place. And I was just wondering, since I live on the Big Island, several of us do. As an example, could we as Rotary clubs kind of come together and maybe just create some awareness about plastic and what we might be able, even if we could store it someplace, and like you said, putting them in those containers and at least send them back to Oahu, that would be just figuring out what can we let's hold this plastic until we can figure out something really relevant to do with energy or rebuild or something. I mean, do you see that? Would you?
Yeah, it's absolutely. And I lived in Japan for 18 years, and in Japan they have different color rubbish bags for different things, and they have like 7 or 8 categories. And like, if you don't put the right stuff in the right bag and they're transparent, your neighbors are going to rat you out. And so I mean, they're completely anal about it. And, okay, so it's a different culture and they're really good about it. But as a country, I mean, for them to have that kind of policy, I mean, that's visionary. That's visionary. And I think that every product that has plastic there should be a plastic tax on those products. And that tax money should be used to collect the plastic and then send it somewhere to be reused. Now, turning it into energy, I'm not a big fan because plastic is a hydrocarbon, so we're back to burning or using carbon-based fuel. I'm much bigger fan of making things that, I don't know, like fake wood out of plastic that lasts forever. And there's a lot of things that we can make out of that used plastic. It just has to be collected and sent to some place that can actually use that kind of stuff in volume.
Would you consider partnering with the Rotary clubs here in Hawaii in terms of trying to develop some kind of at least awareness or communication that might help on the plastic side of things?
So hopefully those of us who are concerned about plastic, there's different levels of people being concerned about plastic. There's the people who want to collect rubbish from the street. There's the people who want to recycle. And then there's people who want to figure out how to figure out what to do with all of that plastic on the island. They exist. What the Rotary's job is to find them and work with them and see if Rotary can play a part there. I mean, I'm in New York now trying to move countries and trying to do worldwide things, but Rotary has this ability to do local things. Hopefully identifying dead-end renewable streams is something that it's like identifying people who pollute the rivers. Everybody knows that, then you can go after the company that puts that stuff in the river and say, you can't do that anymore. And so our rivers have been cleaned up. But I mean, we still have rivers of plastic in the world that end up in the ocean or end up in the land. And it's just another form of pollution. And the people who create that stuff have to be held responsible.
Thanks. Mahalo.
So last year we did have Eco Tips of the Month, and the Eco Club did talk about using bamboo toothbrushes and not using single-use plastics and recycling things. And our project, the Ridge to Reef, last year, we did take an audit of the places that we went to see what kind of stuff we were picking up. And there was a lot of plastic, and we gave that information to Sustainable Coastlines, because they are monitoring where the plastic is and each year where it's piling up. So hopefully we can continue that with our next Ridge to Reef project, picking up plastics. But you know, in Osaka, Hank, there's no rubbish cans in the whole park. The people take their rubbish home. And like you're saying, it's ingrained in them, but there are no rubbish cans and there's no rubbish all around the place. So if we can also do that, and last year the suggestion was right around you, pick up the rubbish, so that right around you, you're making an impact on being clean and not using the single-use items. But Dennis has a suggestion also. Dennis is on the Big Island also. Hey, Dennis?
Is Dennis on mute?
Dennis. Okay. He says that each club can identify something that the members can do to support to improve the environment. And so just a small step that leads to the next step of growing solution. Okay, and then Sandy, the Genki Ball project is with EM Hawaii, and they've been doing Genki balls in Osaka in the rivers, and they've done the alawai. So they've done so much already on the alawai project that the silt has actually reduced a lot, and the water is a lot cleaner in there. So the Eco Club is going to do a Genki ball projects where people can make those balls and then throw it into the alawai. And so some of the other organizations that are doing the Genki ball projects are the schools. So Jefferson Elementary School has pledged to do it every year as well, Alawai Elementary, and so there's a lot of awareness there. So maybe the clubs can get speakers from EM Hawaii to talk about their products that have helped with the environment, and then talk about the Genki project in the Alawai Canal.
Sorry, I don't know what a Genki ball is. I know Genki is healthy, or yeah.
It's using the EM Hawaii uses the microorganisms, and they put it into a ball with mud, and so they throw it into the they're calling it a Genki ball, but it's the microorganisms in the ball that help the eat the sludge.
Oh, I see. Like, yeah, I got it. Like probiotics or something.
Yep. Yep.
Wow, interesting.
Yep. Okay, other questions? No, we're good.
I got a comment.
Lawrence?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Hank. Interesting. I've heard about Blue Planet for a long time, but never knew the mission. And I've worked in the environment that manages natural resources. But I'm in IT. So I like your comment. You're saying, I don't know you. What do you do? It's the way you what's involved in front of you that have an impact. So here's my thought on this. Where I work, the way I viewed saving of energy and how to help the environment. A lot of businesses tend to have 2 monitors on their desktop. Why do we need 2 monitors? We're burning up energy, right? Why do we need, we're getting spoiled, right? Why do we need a 15-inch monitor vertical to read our email and a 21-inch monitor to look at a website? We need, I think this is where, Naomi, we need to come up with a campaign on how to be, we need to step back and refresh ourselves into a 2.0 lifestyle where we really don't need 2 monitors. We need only 1 monitor. Learn how to use Windows, because you can create split screens very nicely. And at the same time, you can have your email on one side, and on the other side, Windows made this technology so that we only need one monitor at our desk. That's one. You're talking about, I don't know, IT. The second one is a lot of consumables that we have is smartphones, tablets, wireless devices. Where do we ship them? That's a good point you mentioned. We have lots of empty containers. I don't see why we as Rotary should come up with a campaign, a message saying, don't dump it in a landfill. I think Home Depot and Lowe's has a bin for all your recyclable batteries and technology. We just drop it there, and Best Buy. But those are the only depots that they have. So if we can create our own regional or island-wide recycling campaign, that's, I think, the message that Rotary can help so that we do achieve our goal in 2045. So here's my challenge, Naomi. I like Dave. I'm going to bring you up front on this one. I like when Honolulu Sunrise did the campaign on the Read to Me. To get that going, Naomi, they created pogs, and they created character pogs so that the community will be engaged into this process of reading to me. Because back then, literacy was the biggest problem. And during that campaign, it was visionized through Honolulu Sunrise, strong marketing company that bought into it and made it a unique environment. So the Read to Me campaign created pogs with different characters, and each of them had its own strength. So for us, I think we should create our own pogs. And that could be like if you use today's language, NFTs, digital, cryptocurrency kind of deal. And we can come up with our own. Okay, if you turn in monitors, we'll give you a digital pog or a pog. I mean, some kind of recyclable, collectible item. If you turn in tablets, we'll give you a different collectible item. And then that becomes our strength. How many do you have? We have 12 collectibles. How many have you collected from Rotary? I see that to be a gamer, right? Henk, game. Your message was always about game. You reach the next level.
Yeah.
If you collect this next level, or if you collect so many pods, I'll get you to the next level. So what is the next level? Rotary should come up with Interact. I don't know. Some kind of
Lawrence,
Interact.
so when you say Rotary, do you mean Pro Ridge?
Well, no, me and Dave can put a team again together, and we'll get back to the district. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, Dave.
Honolulu Sunrise and Pro Ridge. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll do that. And I'm telling you, we're gonna hit the goal of 2045.
Okay.
And I'll have the natural resource committee come up with how to put more solar energy for the comfort station so that we don't need electricity to power up our waste. But Henk, my question to you, you mentioned the containers. If I give you a whole bunch of containers quarterly of recyclable TVs, computers, batteries, do you have a location where I can turn it in for some value or what? That was always an issue with Hawaii, having empty containers in the landfill.
Yeah, again, there are, okay, so I went to Denmark to visit to see how they do it. Oh my God, every municipality has a recycling center. And when I say a recycling center, I'm talking about a place that has like, I don't know, a couple of dozen dumpsters. One is for concrete, one is concrete with rebar, one is glass from window pane glass. I mean, they had all the categories, and people from the area just basically come and put all their stuff into these dumpsters, and then companies that actually use those materials come and collect those dumpsters and bring empty ones. I mean, it's already happening. And they have for electronics, for circuit boards, for paint, for like different kinds of chemicals. They have everything. So there's a place for everything in this place. And every municipality has one. So we can try to figure out how to do this in Hawaii, or we can go to Denmark and just check to see how they're doing it. So, I mean, it's being done in other places. And I think this is the way it is with a lot of things. A lot of places are already at 100% renewable energy because they have extra water power or something like that. And so, by the way, this you mentioned the monitor thing. It's funny because if your electricity is made from fossil fuel, then that is a problem. But for example, at my ranch, and I have this habit of turning the lights off, but at my ranch is off grid, which means that I'm not burning anything to get the electricity on my ranch. It's all solar. And so basically it's very strange, but I don't have to turn off the lights because it's free energy that's coming from the sun. And when we get to 100% renewable energy in Hawaii, for example, then everything that we do, all those bad habits, all of a sudden become irrelevant because we have, 100% clean energy. And recently I heard some noise from the electric company saying, oh, it's easy, probably easy for us to get to 95%, but that last 5% to get to 100, that's going to be hard. And the answer to that is what we do at the ranch, by the way. If you have, if you are off grid, like we're off grid, we have extra solar because it has to work on a cloudy day. So on a sunny day, the batteries are charged by like 10 o'clock in the morning. So what do? We use the rest of it to make hydrogen. So you shouldn't try for 100%. You should try for 140, 150%, and use the rest of the hydrogen, the rest of the power to make hydrogen, which is a transportation fuel for trucks and buses. And those are coming down the pike now. I went to Korea to meet with Hyundai. They're making hydrogen trucks as we speak. They're the leaders right now. Toyota is ahead on Nissan, the Mirai on the sedans. But I mean, these cars are coming down the pike soon. And the difference between a hydrogen electric car and a battery electric car is hydrogen, you can charge it in a couple of minutes. You don't have to wait and wait and wait. My battery's running low. I'm gonna have to run or we're almost out of time anyway, right? I might get cut off because I forgot to take my charger. Do we have a hard stop at in 2 minutes?
No, we can go longer if you want, but in this last 2 minutes though, anybody have a real quick question? And then Henk, if you want to go for longer than 10 o'clock, that's fine. 11 o'clock. Any last minute questions?
No, let me add one more. Let me add one more example. So if we change our thinking, right, and look at the technology nowadays, artificial intelligence. So I bought into this one. I don't vacuum anymore. I use Roomba, right? It's off the grid. It's on wireless. You don't use hardwired electricity anymore. You just charge up your Roomba and let it go, and it'll vacuum your house. If you let it vacuum your house regularly, you don't really need a big case of vacuum. So that's kind of educational campaign that I think Rotary can put some sound bites out there. Hey, we don't need big vacuums anymore. Let's put out let's invest into Rumble. Let's save energy. Let's use robots to do our daily chores. So those are just small kind of examples. But again, after 2 years, what's going to happen? It goes to the recycling bin. So we come back on the turnaround, say, okay, we got that place, just drop it off at Naomi's place and she'll have it recycled and the next container going out. So I think COVID brought us in a good place. Let us sit down, refresh, rethink our life 2.0 because we're getting too rough into our cycle. So we just need to change the way we do things. And hopefully now that everything is going down we can implement new campaigns and hope Rotary take charge in that process.
I know another way of getting rid of plastic. And that's and I've heard there are islands in the world that are doing this, saying you can't import single-use plastic. So that means that it's either got to be an aluminum can or a glass or a carton or something else, but they're no longer taking single-use plastic. And if enough of islands do that, everybody's going to have to start making containers that don't, things that don't contain plastic. And that's ultimately the solution, is when we don't actually create the plastic in the first place.
Okay, regarding floating plastic, our agency monitors debris. So it's not necessarily more of a debris on small plastic in our area. Believe it or not, it's a lot of commercial fishery nets and all those things that they throw off when they go out fishing. So if you saw the latest recycling they did at the one of the harbors, they found tires floating nearby. There's a lot of debris caught in the ocean out there, which is all the fishing gears. And the problem is they're trapped in our wildlife. So like the turtles, the fishes will eat them, and who turned up eating them? Us.
That's true. And Hank, Lawrence works for DLNR. And so he kind of sees what's going on, and he's helping us find some places to plant trees. You know, last year we planted 8,000 trees on this island and trees on other islands, including fruit trees on Maui. And so this year we're planting more trees, and Lawrence got us one place in the Wanalua Trail to plant in April, some more trees. And hopefully we'll get onto Kaho'olawe to plant trees as well. But everybody, we're a little past the top of the hour, and Randy's audio is kind of loud. So he said on behalf of Randy and the district, thank you, Hank, for their presentation. Thank you for being one of our keynote speakers at PETS. Your message is impactful and powerful, and hopefully we can continue on our journey to help with what we can do in our own small areas. Okay, so thanks, Hank. Let's give Hank a round of applause. Oh, what is that? Hot dog, is that a new thing? Okay.
Yeah, kids do it if it's a way of clapping without sound.
Okay. So if anybody Hank, if you want to stay and answer any more questions, the Zoom will stay open a little bit longer. But
All
thanks,
right.
everybody.
Actually, my next stop is Salvation Army. I'm recycling some clothes and some pots and pans. And rather than throwing them out, we're taking the Salvation Army, and somebody will make use of it.
There you go. I look forward to seeing you at in LA, and be enjoying some time together with you. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Aloha.
Aloha. I think that's it. Unless somebody else has a question, raise your hand now or forever hold your peace.
Doug?
Thanks, Hank. Take care.
Doug has something.
I was just going to say, Hank, we really appreciate you opening up your homestead, if it is, as we call it, for a variety of folks on the island to be able to learn about hydrogen, learn what the possibilities are there. That has really been quite the, as you know, and I know Mitch has told you this as well, but it's been really terrific to be able to bring folks that don't have a connection to the technology and the idea to kind of see it directly, see how it's being used. I mean, the whole idea of that happening, as you are more than aware of, we do know that we can make hydrogen there with the geothermal resources we have, the other renewable resources we have clearly are part of that. The distribution network is the next thing for us to really to kind of work on. So figuring out the right way to do that on the island, and then ultimately being able to ship it, whether it's through canisters or some special specially designed transportation vehicle or whatever. That's kind of beside the point, but we definitely have opportunities there. And, we're apparently, I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently the latest on the hydrogen bus that HNEI have been working on is that it's supposed to be at Nelhan March 16th. So we'll see if that actually happens.
How many years did that take?
I don't want to even say because I'm old enough. So we'll see, but we'll see. I mean, the idea was to get all the kinks out while it was on Oahu. So we'll see if it works on our island. So we're hoping.
All right, very good.
Thanks.
And what he's referring to, by the way, is that at my ranch, usually on Fridays, we do tours of the energy lab. And so you can find out exactly how it is that we live off grid and how we make hydrogen and what do we do with the hydrogen. We now have a sedan that we power with hydrogen, and we're working, hopefully. I'd like to see a pickup truck that runs on hydrogen. It's a ways off. Nobody's got one yet, but I'm how can I say? I'm confident that this is going to happen in the near future. So if that's that, then I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you very much for having me, and look forward to seeing some of you or all of you in LA. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Hey, Stefan. Stefan, can you hear? Stefan is in Germany right now.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I was thinking 10 and 10, but apparently 10 p.m. here is 9 a.m.